Back on the podcast, so happy to be joined by Tom Curran, the veteran scribe, and now the veteran do-it-all media guy for NBC Sports Boston. Tom, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, my friend. How you been?
Everything is going well. It's been a fun first day and a half, I would say, of free agency or whatever you call this. It doesn't seem anymore like, there's this tampering period. It just seems like free agency opens at noon on Monday. And I know the Patriots are usually all buttoned up at this time of year. And it was so funny to see these announcements just really celebrated seemingly by the Patriots as well as by agents like Drew Rosenhaus.
Yeah, and the Patriots, Peter, are always very respectful. Part of the agreement with this legal tampering period that nobody in the league really respects is that no agreements are to be entered into, oral or otherwise. You're not supposed to announce anything. All of it has to wait until the league year begins at the risk of tampering charges being leveled at a team. Now, the Patriots are one team. Even when they signed Stephon Gilmore in 2017, they didn't say a peep about it until the morning of free agency. And that's generally been the way they do it. Why do they do that? Because as Belichick said during the Mona Lisa veto press conference, we stay as far away from the line as we can because they know that the league has a tendency to go up their posterior with a flashlight. So what's the difference this year? To me, there's one thing. 7-9 last year, 2019 and 2020, taking all manner of slings and arrows from nitwits like me and venerable reporters like you. And Belichick said, you know what? The first chance I get, I don't care. I'm just going to unload with every single guy they say that I'm incapable of getting. So I think that is likely a reason that we have so much Patriots news before free agency even opens.
It was very interesting talking to Rosenhaus, and obviously I recorded him just before I'm recording you here on Tuesday afternoon. But he is used to look, he's dealt with Bill on so many things over the years. He said even going back to Cleveland when he was a coach in Cleveland. But he said, unlike many years when there's either a Scott Pioli or a Nick Caserio, he said most of it this year was one-on-one with Bill Belichick. And he really was heavily involved. And I said, why? And he goes, 7-9, just basically last year really, really bugged him. And do you get that sense?
100%. Yeah. I was talking to Bill Polian about this a little bit last night, and he said, that was the Excedrin headache of all time. It's not something that Bill, who's driven to win, is going to take in any way lying down. And it had to make him sick to his stomach, is what Polian said. And certainly that plays into it, as does, I think, again, he was going to do this regardless of what happened in Tampa Bay in the first week of February. And he was probably going to do this regardless of what, local or national media members had to say. But I think those probably serve as a spur as well to him, as does Peter. I wonder if you agree with this or not. He's almost 69 years old. How much his age enters into this? Because this is a departure from the quote unquote value purchases the Patriots have been renowned for making. And I think that people will say that's not the Patriots way. It actually kind of is, because the Patriots way is to react to the set of circumstances that are confronting you. And that is, everybody else has their pockets turned inside out, has no money. There's good players out there that other teams can't sign. If we have to overpay to improve our very shaky roster, we're going to do it. That's how we operate. We change the way we need to make the team better.
There are a couple of things that have really occurred to me in the last 24 hours. One is that, I'll never forget sitting with Tom Brady after the Tennessee playoff game at the end of the 19 season. And he was just, he was despondent. And he wasn't just despondent because they lost the game. He was despondent because he just didn't think, and look, there's nothing that he said. Okay. It's just, you just get a sense. He just didn't think they had much of a chance.
Resigned.
And one of the reasons is, and Cam Newton saw this last year. And again, we don't know yet whether Cam Newton is absolutely finished. Obviously, the Patriots don't think he's absolutely finished. But we don't know that yet. But it'd be hard for any quarterback to succeed, throwing to a couple of tight ends that just never, ever got to first base, in the New England offense, throwing really to Jacoby Myers and to N'Keal Harry and really, as Pro Football Focus, put down in numbers, this was the worst group of skill position players in the NFL. So I think in 2020 and really at the end of 2019 too. But what I really sense that this is, and you said it exactly, this is not the light bulb going off in Bill Belichick's head. He's always used every way to get his team on the right track. So although we're all a little surprised, maybe we shouldn't be.
Yeah, I think, and the air that you got after the playoff game was the air that we really got all season long. It was an air of resignation.
Yeah.
Even when the team was 8-0. What do you think we're going to look like in the playoffs? Was basically what his stance was. They finish up 4-4 at the end of the regular season, 4-5 down the stretch. And Tom did that with Julian Edelman having a 100-catch, 1,100-yard season. Cam didn't even have that.
Yeah.
So, Bill, and I wrote about this, and, bygones be bygones. It's been a disastrous free agency for him, 17, 18, 19, and 20. His drafts have really been poor since about 2016, with exceptions like Malcolm Mitchell and Joe Thuney. But at the top, they've been a disaster. And he reaped what he sowed. Any other coach, Peter, would not have gone 7-9 with this roster. They would have been lucky to go 4-12.
I agree with you totally.
So, he can't look at it. And I think that, folks that I speak to down there believe that Bill looked at it and had an understanding and an appreciation for it as well. Look, this isn't just a confluence of circumstances. These guys really aren't that good. These 2 third-round picks that we spent on tight ends last year, they're not good either. We got to do something about this. We don't have these budding stars about to pop up. We're doing something about it, and we're doing it now. So, yeah, it's just really interesting to watch. And again, I find there's so many people who are saying, well, the Patriots are being celebrated for doing things the Patriots don't do. And all these teams that win free agency, you look back through the years at the teams that spend a lot and they don't end up winning anything at the end. Well, those teams were coached by Adam Gase or Matt Nagy or, you name it, guys who were starting out. Even with Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, Judon, Gadshaw, all of these guys are new, and they're all going to be learning in their first year. But you don't think that Josh, after 20 years of doing this at the level he is not going to be able to craft stuff that they get like that? He will. Josh
McDaniels, yeah. There's an A and a B to the other point that really has hit me in the head, in the last day or so, and that is that, when you had this sort of celebrated thing during the year where basically you questioned Belichick about his drafts, and he had a bizarre reaction about how, well, we've been pretty successful here. Well, that doesn't have anything to do with it. The drafts still stink. And really what is so interesting, I think, right now is that Bill essentially is putting it out there for all to see. Okay, I have not put a good enough team on the field to be competitive in a rapidly, increasing in skill division, rapidly improving division. So I guess I kind of look at this and say, it'd be one thing for Bill to sit there and say, oh, don't worry. Harry's going to be okay. These 2 tight ends, they're going to be fine. You just wait and see. Instead of saying that, he said, hey, 2 of the top 5 tight ends in football right now, today, are available in free agency. I'm going to gorge on them. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how I've looked at it. Even as great as he is with 6 Super Bowls, he's not too proud to say, okay, I have not built a good team offensively. And so now I'm going to be George Steinbrenner and I'm going to buy one.
Yeah. And it's wild. I mean, speaking candidly, and we all understand, it's not disrespectful to question a guy. It's our friggin' job. So, I don't think that absolves him from ignoring the position. Look at you with your vitamin C. Good for you.
Thank you.
I don't think that absolves him of having George Kittle on a platter for him playing for Iowa and Kirk Ferentz and not stepping to the plate on that. When we had, my buddy Phil Perry, right, and ideal Patriots have to get Kittle. He had sits until the 5th round. They don't do anything at tight end except for Ryan Izzo, AJ Derby, and Lee Smith over the past decade until they get Asiasi and Keene, neither of whom are probably going to make a dent. Doesn't absolve all those mistakes, nor does Tom Brady's fairly modest contract relative to the rest of the quarterbacks have them pennied into some ridiculous cap space hell either that I think a lot of people cite. But you're right. Bygones be bygones. I mean, I've had a great time covering this team. You've had a great time covering this team. I wouldn't have had the job that I've had I not been recommended by you a long time ago to NBC. And the only reason you were reading my crap was because I was covering the Patriots. So even though he's been a disaster personnel-wise, he's still the smartest guy in the league. And let's get after it now. Sorry, I just scared Bo. Let's get after it and have an enjoyable season, because it shouldn't end this way for Bill Belichick as he enters his 7th decade.
Here's the interesting thing about Bill. You point out, rightfully so, that he's in at age 69. I think no matter how much longer he does it, for some reason, and again, who knows? I don't know. You don't know how much longer deep down he thinks that he's really going to do it. But Chris Sims told me this a couple of years ago about Bill when I talked to him about, said, how much longer for Bill? What do you think? And he goes, I mean, normally you'd say for a guy in his 60s, well, won't be very much longer. But he said the thing with Bill is that he is the exact same person on May 12th as he is on October 12th. Mm-hmm. Like on a game day in October, it's the same as when he's just sitting around in May trying to figure out what we're putting in the playbook this year. He said he never, ever is really, now he'll get upset, but he'll get upset in season and out of season. And so his point was, it doesn't give him agita. This job does not drive him nuts. And I'm reminded at the end of the Seattle Super Bowl, when he's looking across the field at the Seattle sideline with the clock going down less than a minute, 50 seconds to go, 40 seconds. And everybody's saying, why are you not calling the timeout? He was fine at letting the decision be made by Seattle. It turned out to be brilliant. Now, if it didn't turn out to be brilliant and they score a touchdown and get the ball back with 17 seconds to go, all of a sudden it's not too brilliant. But hey, to the victor go the spoils. And so I just look at Belichick and say, man, I don't know if it's only going to be 3 more years. Maybe it'll be more than that.
Yeah, I mean, as we get older, and you're older than me, but as I get older, I think that we all start to experience in our 30s, 40s, and 50s, what am I going to do for the next however many years? What am I going to do? What's it all about? What am I here for? And I think Bill has understood from the time he was 25. I'm here for this. This is why I'm here. Yeah. So why do I want to go, I can do a foundation, the Bill Belichick Foundation, and raise money for lacrosse and for different programs. I can still coach the team. Why do I want to stop teaching tight ends how to properly seal somebody or a crack or whatever when I can still do it at 75? To me, what's wild is the energy level and the work ethic for a guy to get up at the hours he does, to be on the phone for the amount of time he does, to have that skeleton crew of a staff that he does. Caserio goes elsewhere. Monty Austin-Fort goes elsewhere. Dave Ziegler's there. But as we've seen and heard over the years, Peter, it's all Bill. It's all Bill. Nick is there and he's doing contracts. But in the end, when a decision comes down, it's going to be made by Bill. And Nick or Monty, or to some degrees, I think Scott, probably lesser degree, they're carrying out what they believe to be Bill's wishes. So it's a very small staff, all predicated off of one guy. You'll never see anything like this.
Yeah.
The whole franchise, but just leading off of this one little trickle. It's like the friggin' Grand Canyon coming out of the Colorado River. I mean, just one little trickle of a guy who has created this. It's wild.
It's so interesting. You talk about the skeleton staff. I forget, it's either Jacksonville or one of the new staffs this year, including quality control and everything, has 30 coaches. You know what I mean? And the Patriots probably have half that many, and that's just the way he likes it.
They had Joe Judge, Peter, coaching wide receivers and special teams coordinator in his final year here. And that was stuff that we would sit here and go, well, the wide receivers suck. And N'Keal Harry's in his first year, and they have a special teams coach part-timing as the wide receivers coach. Yeah. That was the stuff that drove us bananas on the beat about the attention paid to different things. But bygones be bygones. Let's have a good time.
3 very quick things. Let's talk about the pragmatic view of what has happened. How much do you think Cam Newton has left?
I don't think he has very much left. I don't think he's accurate. I don't think he makes decisions with an aggressive mindset, and I don't think he trusts himself. And I didn't think that the Patriots trusted him either. So I don't think he has very much left at all. I mean, he was good because he ran for 55 first downs and on 137 carries and about 500 yards. That's why he was good, not because he's going to get better throwing it.
Do you believe that with the 15th pick in the draft or wherever, that there's a decent chance or a small chance that they take a quarterback?
I believe it's going to be a small chance because so many good players are going to be driven down the board by the wideouts and pass catchers that are going to be drafted ahead of them.
But then do you think like a Mac Jones or maybe even Trey Lance is there at 15? And if so, you think they would pass on him?
Boy, I think that would be an apples to apples comparison in terms of, okay, who's better? Who do we have ranked higher on those stacks? You have the fullback and linebacker and all these different stacks. And then they meld them, as you know, so that you have a stack of who's the best player in the draft down to the worst guy you got draftable. Who's above who? I think if Micah Parsons is sitting there at Caleb Farley, they say, we've got to go with the board. Mac Jones is 38th best. We got to go with the board.
And finally, is there anything, do you believe that the offense is going to materially change now? Because it seems to me when you take 2 tight ends that you are saying we are going to attack the intermediate portion of the field. And who knows, maybe Aguilar gets some shots downfield, Kendrick Bourne. But I look at this now as an intermediate offense that is going to be the king of tight ends.
Yeah, the offense remains the same. The scheme changes. They're going to be much more, 2 tight end personnel, obviously, with these 2 guys out there. But I think that the offense will remain systematically what it has been. But you're going to see much different things. And what I think is also interesting, Peter, you go from water bug types, Brandon Cooks, Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola, Chris Hogan, to much bigger guys. Myers is over 6 feet. Obviously, Smith and Hunter are well over 6 feet. And Bourne and Aguilar are 6 feet. So much bigger catch radius for a much less accurate thrower.
Tom Curran, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, bud. Take care.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.